clairvoyance of being press is limited, and so we rely on press releases. Biggest news story this week is one that broke late on the Monday, so we didn't have time to add it to last week's show, but it's a very big story in regards of gaming and pop culture. And that is that ReedPOP has bought the Gamer Network. You may not have heard of those names before, but you have probably heard of their subsidiaries. ReedPOP, which is part of Reed Exhibitions, is the company that does TwitchCon, the Patch Cons, and New York Comic Con. And the Gamer Network includes Rock Paper Shotgun, VGX 24/7, Outside Xbox, and Eurogamer. And on top of that, Eurogamer is what EGX is. It's Eurogamer Expo is what it used to be called. And so now ReedPOP owns all of these. It's a very long list, it's very hard to remember, but there's one name on that list that you may also recognise, and that is MCM Comic Con. MCM London is the event we've covered for ages, and last October it was bought by ReedPOP. And this is where I get to my point of a little bit of concern. While buyouts like this are not necessarily surprising, it now gets to a point where out of an entire year's worth of potential conventions I'm going to cover this year, only one of them isn't owned by ReedPOP, and that's Gamescom. And that is the point of concern that I really have around all of this, because the list may seem quite varied, but if you consider the pop culture and gaming UK events, that's most of them. When talking about the buyout on a statement article on gamesindustry.biz, which is owned by the Gamer Network and so now is owned by ReedPOP, they said that all of the positions of the freshly bought Gamer Network is going to remain the same. So it's basically ReedPOP are just sliding themselves in as a owner and not really doing much else. In the same article, Robert Lohman, CEO of the Gamer Network, said, "We are delighted to join the ReedPOP group. The ambition and strategy that we share means we're extremely excited about what's next. The combination of our online channels and European events with their internationally respected US footprint is a powerful one." Additionally, ReedPOP's global head Lance Festerman also said, "Bringing ReedPOP and Gamer Network together, PAX and EGX together, these are the kinds of mashups you dream of. We are beyond excited to dream up new concepts that will blow the minds of fans all over the world." And these new ideas have already started appearing, with EGX announcing EGX Berlin, the first time EGX has gone international outside of the UK. As I said before, it is slightly disconcerting having one company have such power over the gaming and pop culture sphere in the UK as ReedPOP now does. But also in the same mind, I've covered MCM for many years, and for the first time this year I'm going to be covering EGX Resd, and they have been more than amicable to me. So I'm in a strange position, in the strange mind of going, it is very disconcerting that one company has such power, but I have nothing to say against them. They have been pleasant enough, and they've been helpful in so many ways. So yeah, I am really stuck in two minds about it. I have nothing to complain about, but it's now a very big company in the UK. It's almost monopolised. And so in the end, it's just going to be a case of seeing how this turns out. With the way that they seem to be talking at the moment, with Feinstein and Lowen saying at the moment, seems like nothing is going to change, and it's just the parent company. There's been an additional to the parent company line. So, as with many things, let's just see how this turns out. And moving on to the next set of stories, we're going from the new to the old, as with what can really basically only be said as the resurrection of games. With the first story coming from Capcom and the Grasshopper manufacturer. You may not recognise Grasshopper manufacturer, but you may remember its lead designer, Suda51. And that is because this year, the Grasshopper manufacturer is celebrating 20 years, its 20th anniversary this year in making games. And to celebrate its anniversary, its free-to-play PlayStation title, Let It Die, is going to be getting some additional content in the form of Killer 7. In what form? Don't know. They say that the collaboration is going to come in the late part of 2018. In what form? Don't know. How? Don't know. How it's going to be implemented? Don't know. How much? Don't know. It's basically a press release going, we're going to celebrate 20 years by adding Killer 7 stuff to Let It Die. That's it. There's nothing else. They're not saying anything at the moment. Press releases like this are intriguing because it's basically them publicly answering a question of what they are doing about something that people are asking them questions about. So the question of, is Grasshopper Manufacturer celebrating its 20th? Yes, by adding Killer 7 stuff to Let It Die. What stuff? And in more returning game news, there was a press release last week around H1Z1. Didn't think you heard that name again. And part of the release was the announcement that H1Z1 is out of early access. As of February 28th, Wednesday last week, it is now officially out of early access and is now a full game. H1Z1 has evolved over the last couple of years, well, since its early access release, and is now very much a Battle Royale style game. It was one of the predecessors to the Battle Royale genre, being a zombie, large map, survival building thing. But the next evolution from that was the Battle Royale genre, so it just evolved and became a Battle Royale game. So with the announcement of its coming out of early access, it is now announced a new beta, and that is Auto Royale. Auto Royale is another Battle Royale style game mode, but as many people seem to be colloquially calling it, it's much more Mad Max. That being, you and your team start in a vehicle, you can't get out of the vehicle, and you just drive over floating pickup things to get guns and upgrades and things for the car and yourself, and you Battle Royale from there. They certainly aimed it to be much more bombastic, a lot more silly, and then trying to be the middle ground between PUBG and Fortnite, with PUBG heading towards some sort of high sense of realism, and Fortnite heading towards bombastic, shooty minigun wielding madness. Auto Royale seems to be going for that middle ground of reality is overrated, but still reality based, as it's based on the H1Z1 engine and game style. Because of that, it'd be interesting to see how this turns out. It's irrevocably tied to H1Z1, and H1Z1 is going by the Steam reviews, not necessarily well remembered these days. But this new game style is something new. Vehicular style Carmageddon combat. It's kind of old style, which is refreshing. And on the subject of old style, here's a company you never thought you would hear again. 3D Realms have released another game. 3D Realms is the name that is irrevocably tied to Duke Nukem and Duke Nukem Forever, or as it is most commonly known, the atrocity that is Duke Nukem Forever. But they did release a game after that, and it was called Bombshell, and that wasn't well reviewed either. So I'm guessing their thought pattern went, we tried going 3D, took us 12 years and no one liked it. We tried to scale back on the 3D and make something more top-down, because people still didn't like it. So 3D Realms have gone, fuck it, let's just make another 2.5D shooter. And so 3D Realms are releasing Ion Maiden, a sequel to Bombshell, which is a 2.5D shooter. The press release gives the release date as Q3 2018, so autumn, Christmas this year, and it's going to be available for PC, Mac and Linux for $20. But you can buy in now through early access, and going by the reviews, it seems okay. It seems good. 3D Realms have really gone back to their roots, which basically means trying to forget Bombshell and Duke Nukem Forever. In the release, Frederick Schreiber, the vice president of 3D Realms, said, bringing back classic build engine shooters has been our aim for years, so we're driving right into a spiritual successor to the games which put 3D Realms on the map. The team assembled for this project knows exactly how to execute our vision, and we couldn't be more excited to finally bring back a true 3D Realms shooter. And like I said, the game seems to be getting quite well reviewed by the people who have played the early access, so yeah, this one may seem like an interesting return of 3D Realms, with 3D Realms actually taking itself backwards a little bit and reassessing what it can actually do. It's always been an interesting thought looking at the retro game scene, with games like the NES style games and SNES style games having a big rise in new popularity. I was always wondering if the 90s 2.5D shooters or 90s 2.5D graphics was going to have a bit of resurgence. I think if this does well, we may just see just that. And with that, that is all the news stories we're going to be covering this week. And before we go, here is the UK All Formats Gaming Charts, again graciously supplied by UKIE Ltd. And regarding the placings in the charts, nothing really has changed. There's only 2 new entries right down there in the bottom, and it's LEGO Worlds and Resident Evil 7, which come in and out of the charts depending on sales, or with the consideration of LEGO Worlds, as I've been playing it, they've started to put out their Easter-style content. And to end, here are the games that are going to be released this week. It's quite the list, so if you want to read all of them, you may want to pause the video. And that is it for this week. If you found this video informative, please consider subscribing and sharing this video around, and I will see you next week for the next Press Rush.